This weekend is by far the best and worst weekend of the entire 2024 Pro Tour. So let's go over that and some other stuff that happened this weekend.
And he gets it, look.
So first up, we gotta talk about Own the Dog. Scoggins destroys with her 6th major title. Now obviously she has not won an FPO world title, but she does secure her 6th victory at Emporia. And I think she shot 16 strokes better than me. So definitely clear why she is so dominant in the FPO division, winning her title by 25 strokes. And then on the MPO side, we have Joe Revere taking it down as well, who is a Colorado legend, also winning by a huge margin of 14 strokes, taking home over 5K, with his hottest round being the very first one with a 1071. Definitely has the potential to be on tour if he really wanted to, but I don't think that's his intention. And it really came down to just like 6 players the entire weekend. Sure, there was a lot more in the mix, but for MPO, we had basically 3 players, and for FPO, we also had just about 3 players. And for the most part, I'm betting you can guess who those players are because they are a mainstay on tour. For FPO, we have Silva Saarinen, Henna Blomroos, and Eveliina Salonen. And for MPO, we have Niklas, of course, James Proctor, and an Estonian that you probably are not super familiar with, but he is 1026 rated, Mauri Villmann. And it really is so funny to watch these commentators pronounce these names that are just so foreign to me as a foreigner. But I just love to see how much good disc golf there is that I've never even heard of. And now we are getting to the point where these names are becoming a little bit more of a mainstay, but they still have not really played any events on the US side, so it is so cool to see these events finally get an Elite Series appearance. And overall, this course for Turku Open was not my favorite. It wasn't the best disc golf. It was definitely not the best crowds we've seen in Europe. It was just not the best of anything, but I think for whatever reason, maybe it's like personal bias, I just feel like I love these courses, love these events, even if they aren't that particularly good. Let's talk about MPO. First up being Niklas. I did not think he played all that well in the first 2 rounds. Sure, he had near the hot round in the first round, but it never looked like he was like truly dominating in the way that you would expect, especially in the first half of the second round. And in that first half of the second round, he missed 5 circle 1 putts and 5 circle 2 putts. That is not a thing we typically expect from Niklas, and especially being in Finland, I am sure there's that extra pressure where it feels like you just gotta dominate. You gotta show up in your homeland and kind of show how much of a beast you are. So I think he has that extra pressure in his head at least. But then from the back 9 on, it was a totally different story. But before we get to that, let's talk about James Proctor and Mauri. Now I think Villmann was playing very, very strong in his first 2 rounds with a 1070 in the second round, and really the only blemish being a bogey on hole 2, which was definitely not a pretty bogey to get, but from then on out, it was very, very good disc golf, carding 10 birdies after that. And I think especially coming from a pretty good round in your first round, it is so hard to execute when you have so many good names that are fighting right next to you. And I think the commentary team said that he has not had that much camera time, which certainly adds to the pressure. Like James and Niklas have had so many more appearances on lead card on these high stress moments. So if you are not in that situation, it is very hard to persevere. But he played so well. And then we get to James Proctor, who had very similar issues where he really struggled in that front 9 of the second round, carding 3 bogeys in the first 10 holes, and also going 0% for circle 2. But for whatever reason, things just totally flipped after that point because everybody was just lights out the entire way through. Except again on hole 2 where people just really struggled. I don't know what was up with that. Aside from that, it was fire disc golf the entire way through. And starting the round, there was a 4-stroke lead from Villmann. And like I know Niklas is very, very good, but that is such a high deficit to come back from. So it looked like it would be very, very hard for anybody to come back. And then things just started happening for Niklas. And after a 72-foot throw-in on hole 9, everything looked like it might be shaping up for a comeback, but he was still a decent margin behind Villmann. But as the commentator said, disc golf really does start in the back half of the final round. And this could not have been more of the case because Villmann was struggling hard on the back 9, not playing terribly but not getting any birdies, and in stark contrast of Niklas, who just could not miss. And he had birdie after birdie after birdie. And it got down to the last couple of holes, and it really looked like if Niklas could birdie out, then he will definitely take it down, but that would be so hard on these holes. But then Niklas did the unimaginable, jamming in not 1, not 2, but 3 circle 2 putts in the last couple of holes. So basically he totally flipped the lead, going from behind 4 or 5 strokes to being up by 2 strokes going into the final hole. So basically all he had to do was just hit the island and he was in the clear. And that is exactly what he did, winning his 2nd Elite Series event.
Makes a statement. Your champion of Turku Open 2024.
Niklas Anttila! Yes! Kiitos! Painaako paljon?
After being 5 back after 2 rounds, it felt like it's still like manageable. If I play a good round like today, like 12 down, if Mauri shoots 6 or worse, I'm gonna win the tournament. And even 6 down is a good round out here, so I just never stop believing in myself, and that's the key. After being the first man to win the Disc Golf Proctor in the US, to also do it in Finland feels super good for sure.
Let's go, Niklas. Definitely a huge shout out to Villmann, who did show up so strong. Just not his best final round by any means, 10-19 rated. Also, major shout out to James Proctor, who definitely had a chance to take it down as well, with a 10 under, but just could not match Niklas's domination with his 12 under final round. And although it did look like everyone else was playing pretty good, the absolute insane putting from Niklas really shined, and it showed why he is probably one of the best players in the sport right now. And although the stress did get to Villmann, I think this is required to get to that next step of competing with all the stress of a final round on league card. So with that, let's go on to FPO. And in stark contrast of MPO, the final round was much more of a war of attrition, where it seemed like you just had to survive to take it down, with basically everybody showing up hard on the first 2 rounds and then just not really getting it done in the final round, with some of the worst rated rounds in recent history of FPO. And you may think that's a bit of hyperbole, but let me tell you the podium finishers final rounds. We have 950 for first place, 959 for second place, and 942 for third place. And the reason why I say this is such a stark contrast is the first 2 rounds for first place was 1004 and 1008. So they definitely had the capability to play a lot better, but I think with the rain, windy conditions, maybe stress coming into it a little bit. But going into the final round, it looked like it was basically neck and neck between Henna, Eveliina, and Silva. And I would say the person dominating the first 2 rounds, at least in fairways, was Henna. She had so many good drives that put her right up in circle 1, but continuing her trend of circle 1 misses, it did not look great from putting, with her final round only making 2 of 8 circle 1 putts. That really hurt her chances of finishing in first place. So all in all, while she did have so many good drives, so many good birdies in the first 2 rounds, it just was not enough to take it down. So it really felt a lot closer to a battle between Eveliina and Silva. And at least to me, this just feels so funny because Silva is one of those players that shows zero emotion no matter what is going on. It doesn't matter if she throws in like from 100 feet or if she misses a 5-footer. And then we have Eveliina, who throws the most insane lines, the most insane drives, and also is still not the best putter when it comes to final round situations. So all those factors leading into a final round where they basically have a showdown is very hype and interesting. And again, I want to reiterate that these scores were not good. This is not their best rounds by any means, but Silva started off super hot, 4 under through 5, and it looked like, okay, yeah, she's probably going to be taking it down, but then proceeded to follow up the next 3 holes with 2 out of bounds and a couple of missed putts, leaving hole 8 with only 1 under, even though she started with 4 birdies. And then on the flip side, Eveliina kind of did the same thing, just a lot less birdies. She was 1 over through that period. So as they continued to par, get a couple of birdies here and there, it looked like it was very close, and then they both just kind of exploded. On hole 14, which is a difficult hole, Silva goes out of bounds and gets a double. Eveliina cards a bogey on that, which put her 2 strokes behind Silva. And with 4 holes to go, it really felt like anyone's game. A lot of these holes do have very treacherous OBs that are very easy to fall into, and even if you have a great drive, there's some natural OBs that make it very hard to get to the basket. So with that, we move on to hole 16, which is such a tricky line. It feels like anything could happen, and all the top 3 players hit trees, putting them well out of position for a par, and then Eveliina goes right out of bounds, even though she was in perfect position to card a par.
Beth at 69.
I just told myself, you got to will this one in there. Whatever you have, just will it in there.
This man is unbelievable. This is what athletes live for. This is the moment.
With that hole, they both card doubles. And with 2 holes to go, Eveliina has to make a push, but it is one of those easier holes. They both card birdies, so it is going down to hole 18. If Eveliina can make the island, make the birdie putt, then we'll move on to playoff holes. And with Silva going out of bounds on hole 18, Eveliina just has to get to circle 1 and make her putt. And she did make the island, but had a pretty far circle 2 look and goes a little far and loses. So with that, we get Silva securing her first Elite Series event on tour. And of course, being consistent with who Silva is, she does give you minimal excitement levels. It's still so funny to watch. She does secure her victory, even though I think there was so much potential for Eveliina and Henna to take it down. There was so many points of this round that it just did not look like great distance. disc golf. It was not a good performance. It honestly felt much closer to a silver series, but with that, it did get very close down the stretch, and it was very, very good to watch. So with that, what do you guys think about this event? Did you like the course? Did you like the overall layout? Or did you not really care about it because the player field just was not there? I do think this would be a totally different experience if we got Kristen, but ultimately we still have to wait a couple more weeks for that, at least, if not longer. So thank you guys so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe. I really appreciate the recent love I've gotten on the Simon video. It means a lot to me. So with that, thank you guys for watching. Wild Runs, signing out. Peace.